You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network.
You're listening to the Horror Ramblings Podcast, the show about all things horror. We hope you enjoy the show.
This is the Horror Ramblings Podcast, the show about all things horror. I am your host, Lester Blosser, joined by my co-host and good friend, the extremely talented Stephen White. And today we are going to finish out our part 2 of If We Owned the Franchise. So we are going to jump right in, and just so everyone knows, if you hear anything about us running over into the 2-hour mark, and we are obviously not at the 2-hour mark, that is because we split this into 2 episodes. Just wanted to let you guys know. So if you're keeping up with us, which we hope you are, we hope you guys enjoy the show. So we're going to hop right in. So the one film that I'll start with is Nightmare on Elm Street, obviously. When you and I first met, it was because of a Nightmare on Elm Street script that we really started talking about film and everything like that. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about what's going to happen with Nightmare on Elm Street here lately. Jason Blum of Blumhouse wants to buy the rights to Nightmare on Elm Street as well as Friday the 13th. And he said something that I think really caught a lot of fans off guard. He thinks he can get Robert Englund to come back and play Freddy again, which would be a huge feat. Robert Englund is 75. He's not necessarily a young man anymore. He's not an old man either. I've met him a few times. He's definitely spry.
Yeah.
Got a lot of spring in his step still. But he is so iconic as Freddy that a lot of fans can't see anybody else playing Freddy Krueger. But that is where I think I have come up with an idea that might work. So my whole train of thought is, if you're going to change the actor who has played such an iconic character, then you have to change the character. You have to do that in a way that the audience can see it. It's kind of like ripping off a Band-Aid. No matter what, the audience is not going to be happy that Robert Englund's not Freddy Krueger anymore. But if you can go about it the right way, give him his one last real great run as Freddy, and have him pass the torch down, in a sense, I think the audience might be a little bit more accepting. Now, I have 2 ideas as far as Nightmare on Elm Street goes. They both correlate with one another. The first is a film, and that film would basically be a farewell to Robert Englund's Freddy, as it were. And I've gotten into the story before. I'll get into it here today, though. So this story takes place after the events of all of the films, takes place after the events of Freddy versus Jason. Freddy's gone. Like, Freddy is completely gone. Freddy's dead. He's in hell. Springwood, Ohio has been freed of Freddy for all these years. However, killings have started up again. Kids are starting to come up missing. They're finding bodies. Things are not good. And kids are starting to have nightmares again. A lot of people don't know why, but there are whispers of Freddy Krueger in the air again. Now, to spoil this for the fans right now and just get it out of the way, I'll just put it out there. There's a copycat killer out there. Someone who knows about Freddy, who knows about the killings that he's committed, the things that he's done. Now, a lot of people go, oh, well, they buried all of the secrets about Freddy. Everything about Freddy was buried in Springwood. Yeah, that's true, but I live in Ohio. I live in a small town, and let me tell you this. Just because you bury the secrets of your town within your town, it doesn't mean that those secrets don't spread to the communities around. Chances are that even if they tried to bury Freddy and all of the secrets, somewhere there are still whispers of Freddy. And sure enough, someone found out about that. They found out about Freddy. They were deep into the occult. They found out that Freddy, a dream demon, actually exists. And the thing that made Freddy so scary, at least to me, it wasn't that he could kill you in your dreams, which was terrifying enough. It was the fact that he was so evil that he was able to return from the dead to kill children in their dreams. So I thought, what would be evil and scary compared to that? Well, what if somebody willingly wanted to die so that they could become the new Freddy? What if someone challenged Freddy for power? That's never happened before. Everybody's always tried to stop Freddy. Nobody's ever tried to take his power from him, though. And that's where this story goes. There's a killer that is spreading the fear again to bring Freddy back so that he can take Freddy's power away from him. The thing about this film that I think a lot of fans would like is this new killer lets Freddy go about his business. He wants to see what Freddy's capable of. So he lets Freddy kill again. He resurrects Freddy by killing Freddy's daughter. He brings all of these people back into Springwood for this reason, for this showdown. One of the characters that is a big part of this film is Jesse from Nightmare on Elm Street 2. I don't think Jesse got a fair shake. I think he deserves to have his story told. And my version of Jesse is a much different version. When he leaves Springwood, he leaves with the knowledge that Freddy's gone. You know, he only has one person left who he was close with.
Right.
And when the nightmares start up again, she can't deal with it. And so she takes her life because she figures, I'd rather take my own life than have Freddy take my life and take my soul. He lost his best friend and one of his loves by his own hand all those years ago, and then he loses the only person that he really has left. And so Jesse decides in that moment, I'm going to return to Springwood, and I'm going to do whatever I can to stop Freddy if he's coming back. And that leads to him actually bringing Nancy's journal back after all these years, finding the kids that are being haunted by these two new evils, and sort of helping them, trying to get things figured out and finding justice in all of this stuff that's happened. Now, of course, things don't pan out the way that everybody wants them to because it's a horror movie. But we get to see Robert Englund's iteration of Freddy one last time go through, cause mayhem and destruction and death. He does have one-liners in my script, I will admit that. But they're not the comedy type. They are a little funny, but they're funny in a very morbid way. This is a much darker Freddy. And the fact that Robert Englund's older works better for my script anyways, because the way I look at it, an evil spirit like Freddy's, the demonic side of it stays youthful and eternal, but the human part of that remains ages and gets torn down. So it works. Another fun little fact, the way that this film ends allows Robert's Freddy to still remain, the most badass Freddy ever, but allows another actor to take on the role. I don't want to spoil the script itself. I don't want to spoil the end for people out there, but it allows his Freddy to live on, in a sense, while somebody else takes on the more physical aspects of the role. The only thing that they would maybe need Robert Englund for at that point would be maybe a little voice acting.
Sure.
Another thing I will not spoil completely, we do get to see Nancy again, because Nancy didn't really die. Her spirit lingered on in her own dream world. And it takes the darkness of two very evil individuals, these two new Freddys, to bring her back into the world where she can help.
Right.
I also want to see Tina brought back and Alice brought back, but that would be into a sequel film. The biggest thing with this script is obviously there's a lot that Robert Englund would have to do, but with the effects that they have now, he wouldn't necessarily have to play Freddy through the whole film.
No.
They could superimpose his face onto another actor. They could use his voice in different aspects. There's a lot of different things that they could do now.
Yeah.
To where he wouldn't have to necessarily play Freddy completely, but still be a part of it.
I mean, the deep fake thing alone would be a pretty solid idea that I think could be effective and cost effective.
Yeah. It's I've talked about it so much. I know I'm probably not doing it as much justice as I would like to, but all I can say is this. I want to do a film that closes the doors for characters that have existed through Nightmare on Elm Street while opening new doors and creating a new story. Because we are saying goodbye to Robert Englund's version of Freddy. We are getting into a new version of Freddy that can be as dark as we want it to be. And as more sequels are made, as more things are made, we can build a new story based off of the things that already exist. We can say farewell to Robert's Freddy, give him a proper send-off, and create something completely new. Now, with the movie, I also want to do a series. And the reason I want to do a series is because the way that the movie ends, this new Freddy has an idea. He wants to build an army of dream demons. He wants to rule the dream world as a king. So this series basically would be like a touch of the demon type thing. He would spread out this ability to others give others the ability to take on qualities of the Dream Demon. And we would see some characters that we've seen before, Alice, Jesse, things like that, taking on these new dream demons that are coming into the light. Because this new Freddy, he wants to rule on high in the dream world as a king, and he has to have disciples.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that giving Robert Englund the proper send-off is what they need to do. I think that they need to close the door on his Freddy. I think his Freddy deserves an entire film. The audience wants to see him go through everything. You know, they want to see his Freddy come back and cause mayhem and cause destruction and death and go through the story. But it has to come to a close.
Mm-hmm.
His version of Freddy has to be done. And that's not me saying it to be like a jerk or anything. I love Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. I do. But if they want more Nightmare on Elm Street, his Freddy has to be gone.
Yeah.
He can't do it forever.
This is a requel opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what this is. It's my way of saying farewell. And I mean, you've read my script. My new version of Freddy, he's twisted. Yeah. He's dark. You know, he kills Freddy's daughter in a very brutal way, just for the fun of it, because he knows that it'll awaken Freddy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he teases, he kills without second thought. You know, there's a few scenes in the script where he just snatches someone up and he guts them like it's nothing. You know, the original Freddy plays with his victims. He has fun with what he's doing. This new Freddy is very cold, very calculated. And I think that adds to the character. You know, I'm changing the character up, and I'm going to keep aspects of the original, but the aspects of the original Freddy are going to sort of meld into this new Freddy. So by the end of the film, there's no longer these two separate Freddys. There's this new creation that has become an entirely new Freddy Krueger,
yeah,
and has other plans. You know, it's sort of almost like Evil Dead at the end of it. He's spreading the demon like it's a sickness, kind of like how the Deadites spread to people. But you know, you could get an entirely new film series from it, and you could get a television series from it.
For sure.
So, you know, I've worked on it for forever. I have a lot of nods to the original films, and with this film, there needs to be that nostalgia. There needs to be some nods. You know, they make nods to Nancy, they make nods to Alice, Jesse makes some nods to some of the things in the second film that made the second film sort of controversial at the time. You know, it's all there. And the deaths, there are some crazy deaths in it. I think the one that really caught people off guard is I had an anime death, Freddy in anime form.
Yeah.
But it's different. It's something that hasn't been done. And the whole thought process of having somebody challenging Freddy for power, that is what I always found appealing.
Right.
Maybe I'm twisted. When I was a kid and I saw Freddy, I'm like, why doesn't anybody want to be Freddy? He can do all this stuff. I mean, he's able to kick ass and take names. Why doesn't anybody want to just be him? Well, it's because he's a psychopath, you know. But that's the whole thought process on it, though. You know, have someone challenge Freddy for power. Yeah. Have somebody take Freddy's power. Have somebody actually win or think they've won. The way that the film ends is not exactly how you would expect it.
Sure.
But it allows for Robert Englund to go down as the baddest, most awesome Freddy ever, and allows someone else to take the reins.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the script itself, I know that there's things that I would probably adjust and change a little bit with it, but I think that there is definitely room there to create something phenomenal.
Sure.
So, I know you've read it. I know it's been a little while since you've read it. You had notes for me. I've changed some things around. I've added some things and taken some things away.
Right.
What are your thoughts on the whole Nightmare on Elm Street front?
I mean, the idea that you have for trying to continue it while holding on to what had been done, that's a great idea. Considering they've already done a remake and botched it, that's why I'm not 100% on board following through with that. Because, look, I mean, I'm not going to disparage Jackie Earle Haley. I thought he did a fine job, but he's not Robert. There's that energy, you know. There's something missing. It's kind of the way, as weird as this may be to utilize him as an example here. What Kane Hodder did with Jason was give him the personality that none of the other guys did. Even in just movement, he gave him personality. You identify certain aspects to the character now based on what Kane did. It's no different with Robert Englund, Brad Dourif. They embody those characters in such a way that you cannot see anyone else doing that because they are that character. I honestly, I'm going to go outside the horror realm for a moment and look at Indiana Jones. Tell me another actor that is going to do that. In time, maybe, sure, if you still wanted to carry on that franchise, because I have no disparaging remarks to the actor, I'm going to try to say his name right, Alden Ehrenreich, who played Han Solo in the Solo movie. I don't have he played Han Solo, and he did a fine job. I don't have a problem with him, one. The movie is not what it should have been. That's my problem. Yeah. But I still don't hate it. That's outside the point. I just want to utilize this idea. So that's the problem here. But your idea fixes that in a way. So you're getting a new Freddy without recreating Freddy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So even if he's not Robert Englund's Freddy, he has taken that mantle over. He is now a new Freddy, and it works. Versus trying to replace the actor who made, I guess, Child's Play, we could look at it the same way, where Mark Hamill did his take of Chucky. It's hard to disconnect, but his Chucky is not the same Chucky. So for me, I can let that go. I thought he did. The movie, to me, was surprisingly good. I know that might be
I actually liked it too.
Yeah.
I thought it was solid.
I know that that's probably an unpopular opinion, but I was surprised how much I liked it.
Yeah.
You know, I still will not put it over the original.
Yeah.
But I was impressed with the way the idea and the execution of it all turned out. I was like, okay, surprised me. But again, Mark Hamill just, knowing that he wasn't trying to be Charles Lee Ray Chucky, kind of felt like it was more forgiving.
Yeah.
Whereas Jackie Earle Haley was being Freddy Krueger, just a more vicious, less quippy. I don't know. It just felt off. The wrong approach.
Yeah, and that was the whole goal of the idea that I had. We can have that Freddy. We can have that sinister, dark Freddy, but we have to build to that.
Yeah.
The truth is, Robert Englund is not getting any younger. He's not going to be able to be Freddy forever. The fans want to see him as Freddy. But when they start talking about remakes and reboots, you do have some people that are like, yeah, it's time. But you have a lot of people who are going, nobody can do this except for Robert Englund. He's Freddy. I get that. I get that. I have that mind. I've had that mindset before. Mm-hmm. He's the only Freddy Krueger. But you have to think about it in a way where you're like, well, yeah, he's the only Freddy, but what if he wasn't? What if we did let him pass the mantle down? What if he did pass the torch in a sense? Mm-hmm. It's up for interpretation. He's a dream. He can be anything. You could do a movie where Freddy just changes his form, and then boom, you've just got another actor in it.
Yeah.
But the thing is you would want that actor to act just like Robert Englund.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to do it just like Robert Englund. So do a power struggle. Show the change. Show the shift into it all. Create something new. And then go off and do the other things. Do a prequel movie. Do a prequel before he got burned while he was still alive. Make a film about that. I think that would be interesting to see. It's something that I have kind of touched base with, but the biggest thing that I've focused on is what do we do now? We've got Freddy versus Jason. We've got all this stuff done. We're running out of time because Robert Englund is getting older. Yes, you can do deep fakes. Yes, you can do these things, but you still need him for certain things. Like you need Robert Englund. So why not just show the power struggle? Show an altercation. Show something that hasn't been shown before. Freddy's used to being the top dog in the dream world, and whenever somebody stops him, they just stop him. That's all they do. Show somebody, look at him and go, I'm going to take the only thing that makes you what you are. I'm going to take the demon from you, and I'm going to destroy the human soul that remains. It's mine. I want it. I'm going to be the new Dream Demon. I'm going to be the new Freddy Krueger, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. Because Freddy's going to be a lot different if somebody's challenging him for power.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to have his fun. He's going to kill his teenagers and everything. But have that ending. Close the door on Freddy. Just because you close the door on the original Freddy doesn't mean you have to close the door on the original story.
Sure.
Like, that's my big thing. Don't close the door on the original stuff. Let Robert Englund's Freddy come to an end. Let that story close. And eventually, over time, maybe kill off some characters from the original films. Have them sacrifice themselves to save the new generation.
Mm-hmm.
But because look at it this way. The original kids that fought Freddy, they fought the original Freddy. This is a new Freddy. Let the new generation take over to fight this new evil that exists. You could create a whole other saga of films.
Yeah.
There's so much to do with it that it blows my mind that it hasn't been thought of up till this point. I'm sure that there's other fans out there who have thought of something similar.
Yeah.
It would blow my mind if they haven't. I know that there's been a lot of stories about, Freddy has a long lost son that takes over. But I don't see the point in Freddy Krueger's not going to give his power up for free.
No.
He would not just pass on his power. It has to be taken from him. So I guess this would be a horror action film to a degree.
Say nothing wrong with that.
It goes right into everything. You get your first glimpse of the new Freddy. I call him Freddy 2.0. That's what I call him in the script. He talks about his plan. It moves into the first act with the kids. You meet the kids. You meet Jessie and Freddy's daughter. Her actual name is Maggie. So Jessie and Maggie actually go to sleep. They meet in the dream world because they're like, we're going to destroy Freddy because we know how. They're shocked because it's not the Freddy they think it is. It's this new Freddy, and it was a trap. He lures them there to destroy them, mainly Freddy's daughter. That's who he wants. He wants her because he knows that is what will awaken Freddy from his slumber. And after this, Freddy wakes up. And then the new Freddy, he looks at the original and he goes, I'm not afraid of you. I'm not. You might think that I'm afraid of you, but I know who you are. I know what you're about. But I want you to get your strength. I want you to be strong. I want to see what a dream demon can really do. The kids are already afraid. Go to them. Do your thing. And Freddy thinks in this moment, you know what? I'm going to have some fun. I'm going to kill some kids. I'm going to get my strength back. And when I get my strength back, I'm going to destroy this little punk who thinks that he can take me on. The film has a little flashback scene that kind of shows Freddy's first victims, things like that. But that's what happens in the film. This new Freddy has to remind the original of his human side. He has to make him take human form in order to destroy that form.
Mm-hmm.
And so the battle ensues after some creative deaths. The new Freddy, he gets a couple kills in the film, but it's mainly Robert Englund's Freddy. He gets the spotlight. And I think that's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
We need to have one film. It's kind of like an addiction. The fans need to see Robert Englund's Freddy. They need to watch him do his thing, and they get rewarded. They watch him just wipe out these teenagers in this film. They get some nostalgic little nods. There's some nostalgic things that happen. One of the kids wakes themselves up, sort of how Nancy wakes herself up in the first film. They put their hand on a hot boiler, and it makes them wake up. And Jesse gets to meet Nancy, and he shows Nancy his journal. The journal. There's a part in the film that I have written where Freddy, the new Freddy, is taking the form of Nancy in order to toy with the original Freddy. Because, she was the one that Freddy despised the most.
Yeah.
It's little nods like that, but it creates this whole new story by closing out. The first film that I had planned is a farewell letter to Robert Englund's Freddy. That's exactly what it is. It focuses on the past. In the whole, first half, the first half of the movie focuses on the original Freddy. You do get nods to the new one, but as you get into the second half of the film, it starts to gravitate toward what is going to become, and it puts us into the story of this new Freddy, so that by the end of the film, the audience has gotten its taste of its final viewing of Robert Englund's Freddy, and as bad as it sounds, they've come to an acceptance that he will no longer be Freddy, and they get to know this new Freddy a little bit. And at the very end, they get a surprise and they find out that there's something completely new being created that is still very much the original as well. So I think that audiences would react rather well to it.
Yeah.
I think it would be a roller coaster ride. I'm not going to say that it would be, the best movie ever, but for what it is, I think that the fans would enjoy it, and it would help them gravitate more toward what Nightmare on Elm Street would become at that point, because it would become something new. It would be able to be made into something much, much darker.
Right.
They could get back into the more horror aspect of it, but you have to say goodbye to the original. I think that's what needs to happen. There needs to be a film that's basically a goodbye to the original, because it is a reboot.
Sure.
But this is like you said, a requel. It sets up the new story.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street's my big one. Like I know we've talked about it a lot in the past. So, but yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street is definitely, if I could make any film, that would be the one.
Yeah.
That would definitely be the one. So, and I know that we've discussed it many times before. So
Certainly.
Other than that, I mean, I know we're coming up on the we're almost at 2 hours and 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I have other films that I've kind of looked into, but the one that takes the most of my time is definitely Nightmare on Elm Street. And let's hope that there's some ears listening to this right now that might be like, maybe these guys are onto something.
Maybe. It'd be nice.
Because I would love to have that conversation with someone.
Yeah.
Because hearing me talk about it on a podcast and actually talking to me in person or on the phone or something like that about it, I'm a very different person with it. Even the way that I have the script written, it's not necessarily as descriptive in some areas. Some of the dialogue I've left a little vague, but I've done that purposely, because I look at the script like the blueprints, and I want the people who actually built these films, the people who actually played these characters and put the time in, I want their opinions on these things. I want them to put their twist on things. Some of the best lines in Nightmare on Elm Street were just spur of the moment things. Welcome to Primetime, bitch was not originally Welcome to Primetime, bitch. That's one of the most iconic lines. Robert Englund is the reason that line came out the way that it did. He changed it a little bit.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to create this living, breathing film, just as you are. Just as you are with your ideas. I would love to see a Pamela Voorhees film like what you're talking about, and the life that you could breathe into it.
It would
it's
be
just
a dream.
Yeah, we have dreams to make nightmares.
Yeah.
That's the best way to put it.
And I would hope, as we're sitting here talking about this, you hear from, I'm going to try to give a benefit of the doubt to those filmmakers who have done the remakes and they have not landed, that at least maybe in their mind, they were passionate like we are. They're talking about it with such a passion, and they just didn't stick the landing, or something prevented it from being the vision they had. Because that would disappoint me, having the vision for Pamela the way that I do, and then it just came out on the screen and was not in any way remotely what I had in mind. Like, goes from this emotional tragedy to a slasher film. That would break my heart. Because at that point, to me, it's gone. Like, the idea is gone off the table for a long time because it's been done and now it's ruined. Same with yours. I would hate for that to be made and then it not stick the landing properly to where it's just left hanging and it doesn't allow it to continue and continue the saga, because we're passionate about it. We want to see the best version of it.
Yeah.
And I'd hate to think that that's what happened to a lot of these other films, is that these directors and writers watch their stuff get destroyed because the wrong people steered it in the wrong direction.
Oh yeah, and even with the script that I have, if I was to get a phone call tomorrow and someone said, "Well, let's see your script," and they looked at it and they said, "We like the general idea. We think that the script needs to be changed some," I would talk to them with it.
Yeah.
And find out, what kind of changes do you want to make? What kind of edits do you want to do? And if it's going to be something that would be a better version than what I had, but it's stemming from, the thoughts that I had, I would be completely fine with that.
Yeah.
maybe my idea is not the best direction to go. Maybe it is. I won't know until, someone looks at it and goes, you know what? Let's do this. I mean,
as I've told, and you mentioned it up top. I've read your script. There's a good idea there for sure. That was what I told you on my notes, because I did send you a plethora of notes about the script. There's a solid idea there. I believe that wholeheartedly. It just needs to be smoothed out, refined, and then it'll be perfect. So that's my opinion.
No, and I know that's a conversation you and I have had a few times, and I haven't gotten the opportunity to refine it as much as I would like to, and I know that it does need refined more, and that's what I always tell people. I'm an idea guy all day. I have a lot of ideas, and this was another idea that I had, and it's there. I know that it's good. I know that it's something that people would enjoy. I just have to work a few kinks out.
Certainly.
So,
yeah.
and at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. If somebody looks at it and they go, this is good, there's a good idea here, there's a lot of potential here, I'm happy with that. Yeah. And I would love the chance for other people to see that potential and be like, maybe we're on to something here.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe somebody will be listening to this and go, let's see if we can get a hold of these guys somehow.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
And just so you know, if that does happen, I guess we're going to become writing partners, because I'm gonna tell you right now, if one of our ideas goes somewhere, hopefully we'll bounce ideas off of each other.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
So.
And hey, I'll work for cheap, not like super cheap, but I don't know how much writers get paid to have their scripts optioned. But I feel like I got a low price point that would please a lot of studios, and it just get me by just fine for now. Then I'll bump my rate when it becomes a little bit more in demand. So just saying, if you're looking for somebody cheap.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys like what we're talking about,
yeah.
I mean, we are affordable. Like, I can tell you that right now.
Oh yeah, right now we'll sell our souls just to get our name on something.
I mean, to be honest, a lot of people worry with Robert Englund playing Freddy. A lot of people worry that if another actor does it, they won't get the movements right, or they won't get the performance quite right. I can tell you right now, I have a close friend of mine. Robert Englund's talked to him several times at the conventions and everything. Absolutely adores this friend of mine. And if you want an actor who could play Freddy Krueger as Robert Englund and you would probably not know the difference, I've got that guy. Like, he's ready to go too. I've got him. He's ready to go. He would work for a very affordable amount just to have his name on a film as being Freddy for parts of the film. He would absolutely lose it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. These studios need to look at it, because there are people out there who are willing to work for them for a relatively decent amount.
I mean, we're trying to help the budget. That's all.
Yeah. And but they're giving these franchises to people that are like, well, I want paid millions and millions and millions of dollars, and they're not pumping out ideas that are hitting the mark.
And that's the problem. It's about the money, not the art. We love the art. We want to see a good, solid horror movie that's done right. Stop throwing it at the guys who are just like, well, give me all the money. Let me make it fancy. I don't give a damn. I'm going to put it to where it belongs.
Yep. And I mean, it's even with this show. If we woke up tomorrow and they were like, we're going to do your ideas, and we became some big shot, well-known names in Hollywood, I can tell you right now, I'd still be on here every Saturday going, what are we talking about today?
Yeah.
Because it's all about what you put out there for the people. And if we've got people who are listening who enjoy what we do, I'm going to keep putting stuff out for them,
Sound like fair trade to me.
Yeah. So I think we're at the 2-hour 34-minute mark right now on my end.
Yeah.
I know that we could keep going, but I don't want to have too many people going, man, these guys talk a lot.
Well, I'm sure we could split this one up into a two-parter.
I think we could. But if you like, I'll let you, and if there's anything else that you want to discuss before we hop off here, I will say we can let the fans know July might be a little different for content. Steven does a lot of work, guys. He's a very creative guy. Sometimes he needs to take a little bit of time to decompress. Honestly, I'm the same way. So July is going to be a little different for content. We're going to take some time off in July. We will still make sure that there's some content out. It might not be as long. It might be a little different, but it will still be out there for you guys to listen to. And then we will pick back up in August.
Yes.
With the regular show. So
yeah, I need my mental recharge, and July and December are my mental recharge months. So it's like in the middle and then at the end, and it's nice to decompress, which is, I feel like we all need. Sometimes our creative juices just kind of clock out, and I've been on overtime here lately. It seems like with the videos and stuff like that. Which my newest video should be out by now. Boba Fett versus the Mandalorian. So go check that out. If I don't feel like it was my best, and I say that because I feel like I'm in my mental rut now, so I apologize. But I think it was good for what it was. It's just not the best. But anyway, hey, all you ramblers out there, you let us know what horror franchise you want to have the reins to. What would you do differently? You can give us your brief synopsis on Twitter at Horror Ramblings. But if you've got more to say, if you want to send us every detail, we promise not to steal it. We'll just read it out on the show, and then other people, you can blame them for stealing it. It won't be us. But if you got more to say and you want to explain your big idea, send us an email at horrorramblings@gmail.com, and we'll read it out on the show, or we'll just read it and maybe give people a brief synopsis so we don't spoil it for everybody. If you love social media groups, you can go over to Facebook, follow us over there, join our Facebook group, hang out with fellow horror fans like yourself. I'm trying to announce people. Welcome to all the people we announced this week. I don't have names right off the top of my head, but welcome. Welcome to the Facebook group. It's nice to have you there. Maybe we'll start reading names off on the show just so, everybody's getting their shout out. We shouted out Twitter people today. Maybe we can do that. We'll have to do that. Anyway, you can find us on Instagram, see an assortment of horror images if we try to remember to do that. I've been trying. I know you've been trying. You probably do a little bit more than I do.
It's been a little difficult lately.
Yeah, just time, man, time.
Yeah.
If you want to say nice things about the show, go over to Apple Podcasts. Leave us one of those beautiful 5-star reviews. You can express your feelings, help grow the show at the same time, because every 5-star review does us a solid, and you can do that very same thing over on Spotify if you're so inclined. But apparently you've got to listen to a few before they'll allow you to do that, so making sure you're listening. So if we see a rating, we know you've listened, and we appreciate that all the same. It's all appreciated.
Yes. Very much so.
Most importantly, you can tell your fellow horror fiends, your fellow ramblers, to search Horror Ramblings on their preferred podcasting platform. If we're not there yet, I am working on it. And if nothing else, you can keep up with any and all things at pencilpaperproductions.com/horror-ramblings. Links are in the show notes for your convenience.
And as always, guys, make sure you stay spooky out there.
This has been the Horror Ramblings podcast. Join us next time for even more
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.